Welcome to Mile High Reefers. I'm Scott Anderson, and today we're going to do the post-mortem on the 210-gallon reef. So everything downstairs is a total loss. 6 months without me taking care of it, a power failure, and not me running the tank means that we had a lot of debt. So a lot of the equipment, by the time I got to it 6 months later, was broken, and that was the first thing I fixed. So all the water flow is back up and running. Gyres are working, calcium reactors back online. I've done new carbon filtration, new GFO, and I've got the ALK up to where it's supposed to be. It was about 4.3. I've brought it up over the last week or so. Today we clocked in at 9.1. So we're doing good, but for today's video, we're going to talk about some of the stuff that made it and some of the stuff that didn't, and I'll just give you some of my theories as to why it happened. Starting with the fish, we lost the blue tang, the powder brown, the two smaller clownfish, my bicolor blenny, the Christmas wrasse, and some of it I think is for good reason. The blue tang was a 10-year-old tang and probably had a hard time competing for food against the other tangs. And unlike the tumini, who's nice and fat, he probably couldn't scavenge from the rocks and eat the algae like the tumini can. That tumini just loves the algae he finds on the rocks. Same with the yellow tang. You can see the HLLE is really bad and it's gotten way worse. I think what we're looking at is food composition. I don't think this tank was fed enough food, and what we see are the fish who were able to compete best for the remaining food. Those fish we lost, I mean, while 10 years old is a lot for a blue tang, those tangs will live 20 years. So it's kind of like a human dying at 50. It happens, but it's not expected. Probably my biggest personal loss was that big green bubble. Not sure why it died. It was starting to get overshaded by some stuff above it, but really I know it went fairly early on. Don't know what the cause, but big fleshy LPS were the things I lost the most of. Like the Acanthophilia and Cinerina. These are the only two I have left, and while once upon a time these were really high-end expensive corals, they're on death's door, and the reason is they weren't getting fed, they lost flow, and now they look like this. And everything downstairs was dead. So that was two problems. You have a more difficult coral in a bad situation down there. But let's contrast two different box corals. This green one is really rough. Covered in flatworms. Flatworms have always been a problem. I think what we have here we can save, but this coral was dying back and it's super rough. But compare this to the one on the corner, the more teal and pink one, and it's much better. This coral didn't suffer near the die-off. When I found it, it wasn't near this good, but it's really bouncing back strong. So these are my three remaining bubble corals. We have two of the kind of teal ones. This one's kind of got the cat's eye. And then this top bright green one, that's the baby from my big green bubble. So we can get it back. I still have a little tiny piece of it. But yeah, we lost two or three others that were over here. I really don't know what the cause was, but it's interesting that some survived and looked pretty good, though I don't know why this green one's hanging down and others just died. The Euphyllia sections turned out reasonably well. Hammers, frog spawns, they're all okay. For the most part, I lost individual heads and not full colonies. You can see for some reason this center section around where the teal mushrooms are, I lost a lot. I think that's actually the teal mushrooms killing them. I was trying to pull them and eradicate them. I'm really struggling to eradicate those guys. My biggest mystery is I can't find the frammer, the gold hammer frog spawn. I don't remember pulling the skeleton, but I can't find it. So where'd it go? It's kind of interesting. I had a gold torch sitting right here next to this green torch that's doing fantastic. That green torch is doing amazing. The gold died. What's the difference? Pretty much same conditions, same lighting, same everything. And then the wall frog spawned. For a while I thought I lost it and it was gonna die, and it's opened back up and looks amazing again. I'll take that win. One thing I expected to survive, Leptastria, here it is. Some of the more surprising stuff have been the Acroporas. This red dragon, I believe it's called, is kind of those bottle brush style, thin branching Acroporas. It must have done really well for a while because it's gotten a lot bigger. The tips look like they're doing good, but the center was full of cyanobacteria, and you can see where it was dying back from the cyano. The green Slimer next to it looks fantastic. Next to it used to be a mortal tort. If we get in there real close, hopefully it'll focus on it. You can see I've actually got a little tiny bit of growth there. The immortal tort may actually come back. I thought it was 100% lost, but really all we need is a few little stalks. I'm not touching it from here, fingers crossed, even though I know I can get more. Another one I didn't expect to survive is this really fluffy, bushy bird's nest. And other than where the cyano grew, it looks pretty good. One coral I expected to do really well was this Pectinia, and it's not doing well. It's really rough, it's pulled in. I think we can save it, but it's super rough. Pectinia is usually fairly tough, and I've had this one for years, but this time, whatever happened, it did not like it. But then when you compare that to Space Invader, the Space Invader looks great. Two similar corals, one's near death, or at least struggling. The other one looks fantastic, and if anything, has grown. On the loser side, it's branching Monipora, Sunset Monipora. They got smothered in cyanobacteria, which I'm slowly working on. Both these corals are rough. There's enough there that they may come back. Somewhat surprising to me is the pipe organ coral. When I first saw it, it was pretty pulled in. I thought it was gonna be rough. As soon as the flow came on, it really opened up, and today it's looking so much better. This stuff loves flow, and I think that's made all the difference here. The brains have done all right. The big pineapple has had a lot of tissue recession. You can see right around here, it's dying back, and I'm sure it goes around to the other side. So that's bad news. But next to it's the Christmas Favia. It doesn't have the color it used to, but it seems like it's otherwise in good health. And then the little Platygyra next to it looks pretty decent. Again, not the best color, but alive, reasonable health. I can fix not the best color. And the Blastos. Blastos did pretty good. My brains up top, similar kind of story, look fairly healthy, pretty good color. These are actually doing better. I think it's because they were on top, they were getting more light, and of the flow that was there, they were getting more of it. So the higher the brain was up in the tank and the more light it had, the better it seemed to do. My Monty shelf looks pretty good. Color's not ideal, but it looks pretty good. So we've had some dieback here. I can't remember what that exactly looked like. My Setosa died completely covered in cyano. I'm gonna have to get new Setosa. That was that kind of grafted looking stuff. It was awesome. My WWC grafted, all that's left is the pink. There's a tiny bit of green there, but basically only the pink half has made it through. This little weird acro thing, I had two of them. I can only find one, but it's actually in pretty good shape. Not even sure what it is, but it did all right. In the back, the green pallies are still a mess. They are way out competing the chalice that was around it. I put those chalice there to hopefully kill it. There's a little Stylophora back there just kind of hanging on to life. The Poecilophora up front's doing pretty good. And then all the soft corals did great. The potato chip looks pretty good. We've got some tissue recession going around it and stuff. Very salvageable colony. And then the Spongoda, it's straight up brown now. It looks healthy enough. I think with the halides and getting the water chemistry right, this will color back up. But it has become one ugly coral. My pallies survived, but they lost a ton of color, and now they just look like ugly brown pallies. Hopefully the halides will get me back to where I want to be. My Hydnophora pulled through pretty well. Everything downstairs died. I probably had about 4 times this much, but the stuff up here looks pretty good. All the Leptoceras did great. It looks fine. This orange stuff is growing almost in complete shade, continues to survive. Leptoceras is like the most underrated coral. This Leptoceras is struggling at its base because it was overgrown with cyano, which I've removed. Hopefully this one will fully recover. The Crazy T Monipora, I put it on the bottom of the tank because that's where I had the best results with it. Not sure what killed it, but it's dead. All these flatworms on there make me think maybe there's some sort of flesh left that they're feeding on, or they just love the open space. I don't know. The red blastomusa and the micromusa are doing pretty good. Not near as colorful as they used to be, but these will be easy to save. Biggest surprise is probably this Heliofungia. It looks fantastic. Color's good, health is good. Like, it just pulls through. Helios have this reputation as being almost impossible to keep with some people. For me, it's been the exact opposite. This coral's been bulletproof, and now it's sitting next to this green candy cane, and they've like learned to live with each other. Like, it's not even burning the green candy cane next to it. And green candy cane, super tough coral. That's really pulled through a lot. With the big soft corals, the toadstools, the devil's hand is probably the one that's fared the best. It looks pretty good. The long tentacle's probably the one that's done the worst. It's kind of getting those thin spots where it's going to start putting holes in it. It'll start falling apart. I think the added light and flow is going to make a huge difference for this coral. It's too big for its spot. It needs cut. It's going to take some help. The Aussie devil hand above it looks much better. Color's not amazing, but it's healthy. It's going to pull through. The long tentacle behind it, it looks healthy, but the color is not good. This one used to be one of the most amazing leathers, and now it's just boring. And then, of course, Kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope's done pretty well. If anything, it's grown, but it is up high and doing pretty well. My Gorgonians are not doing well. They've died back except for the top 30% or so. But these are ones I can cut and save. But for now, we'll just leave them as they are. Hopefully light and flow will save those guys. Then there's my giant Squamosa clam. It's doing really pretty well. Again, it's lost color, but it seems otherwise healthy. This is a clam I've had for 10 years. My clowns live in it. So the fact that I still have it makes me so happy. And maybe the biggest surprise, I think, to a lot of reefers out there is going to be this Goniopora. And sorry about the angle. I just don't have a good angle to shoot it at. It's not as big and full and open as it used to be. But this is a coral that used to be unkeepable. Like, they wanted to ban it because it was so hard to keep. And here it is after 6 years or 6 months of neglect, and it looks pretty good. Like, I can save that coral. And there we go. That's the full tank. A couple corals we probably missed or glossed over, but that's kind of the post-mortem. Biggest thing I noticed while shooting this video, the big flamingi is covered in ick. That has to be what killed the other tangs, and probably the other fish. He's covered in ick. The ick was always in the tank. When the tank became stressed, the fish became stressed, and now the fish have ick. I knew it was always there, and it's reared its ugly head because the tank was stressed. So, another thing to battle. I don't get to see this tank every day. I almost work this tank more like a service job. So we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna rebuild it. It's gonna be awesome. And don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, because we're rebuilding this tank and I've got cool ideas going forwards.